Good afternoon, students. Welcome to week 3. Today I'm trying a different recording technique, and I hope you have a better experience with week 3. If there is any issue, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to have a look at how we go next week. Thank you very much for your feedback last week, which was really helpful. I hope you are having a good time with Aman in your tutorials. Any questions related to tutorials or your lecture content or your reading materials, do not hesitate to contact us. We are always there to help you. Let's begin. This week's topic is positioning of services. But before we come to positioning of services and spend about an hour and a half on positioning of services, I think it would be a good idea to have a quick recap of the key learnings from week 2. What are the key learnings that we had in last week? Because we had quite a long lecture session last week, almost 2 hours, because it was necessary. So if you put your thinking cap on and try to understand what, or try to recollect what we discussed last week, some of the major issues that we tried to highlight are as follows. Now, one of the key issues that we will be often talking in this unit is, as I mentioned, customer experience. And whatever we discuss and whatever case studies we are doing, all are primarily looking through the lens of customer experience and customer-centric approach. And I cannot emphasize this more. So creating wow customer experience, we try to understand that yes, creating experience is fine, but how can we create an experience which customers remember? So we call that as memorable customers. Can you do that one little thing better, which the customer takes home and he creates a buzz around your service, your product, your offering, whatever you call it, right? So that was one of the key things. We took the example of Zappos.com and how Zappos is creating wow experiences for its customers. And if you recollect, Zappos has 10 values, and the topmost value is creating wow customer experience, right? Do everything with that lens that customers are always happy. The other thing that we said, that if you want to take a customer-centric approach, if you want to make customer experience as one of your foundational premise, then you need to understand the basic model of marketing, the fundamental roles that marketing plays. And as we said, that if you ask 100 people, 100 types of functions of marketing, people will come up with. But from a practitioner's perspective, from a conceptual perspective, both of these dual perspective, marketing plays two critical roles. And those are the two roles that we discussed, if you remember, in our class we discussed last week. So one was create customers. And the second one we discussed was keep customers, right? So create customers and keep customers. These are the foundational roles of marketing. And as we said, that creating customers, you spend more money. So it's always expensive to acquire customers. But relatively, there is research evidence to suggest that it's less expensive to hold on to your existing customers. However, most of the Australian businesses, at the least, are not doing good on the second part of the equation, that is keeping customers or making customers loyal to their services, to their products. So please, as a practitioner, keep this at the back of your mind whenever you are in the domain of marketing or marketing related practice. We also discussed 3 stages of service purchase process, and our primary focus was to understand how customers behave. What is consumer behavior in the domain of services? So when it comes to service purchase process, we said there are 3 primary stages. One, the pre-purchase stage. If you remember, so we had pre, we had post, and then we had the purchase. So there are 3 stages that are the components of a purchase process. Please remember that. Then we had a discussion about expectation and disconfirmation theory, that and the primary understanding of this disconfirmation expectation theory was that whenever you enter into some sort of an agreement with a company, now when you buy a product, when you buy a service, you enter into some sort of an agreement. For example, you buy a mobile service, and then you have a contractual service, or you have a prepaid service, but there is some sort of an understanding and expectation from the customer that what do I expect from the company. Now, if your expectations are fulfilled, you are happy. If your expectations are not fulfilled, you are unhappy. And if your expectations are fulfilled beyond your imagination, then you are delighted, you are super happy. Now, the super happy stage is something which we saw often referred to as the wow or delight factor. So these are the 3 elements of expectation disconfirmation theory that you should. Then we also discussed about zone of tolerance, that how much are you able to tolerate when you get or when you want to get a mobile service, when you want to get an internet service, when you want to get a hospitality service, there is the desired level of expectation and what you get. So there is a desired expectation where there, how much of a gap exists between what you desire and the basic minimum that you get. That is the zone of tolerance that customers are ready to tolerate. And finally, we left you with one instrument, which we call as ServQual, the short form of service quality. And as the saying in management science goes, or marketing science goes, that unless you measure something, you cannot manage, right? So how do you measure service quality, which is more of a perceptual measure? It's a subjective measure. It's not an objective measure. And we gave you a tool which consists of between 20 to 25 items. When I say items, these are Likert type scale based items where you ask questions to the customers fill out, and then you do statistical analysis on the data that you gather. And in 1985, late 80s, early 90s, Parashuraman, Zitmal, and Berry created this scale, which has primarily 5 dimensions. This study was primarily done in the North American services context. They got 5 dimensions: RATER, reliability, assurance, tangibility, empathy, and responsiveness. The 5 dimensions of ServQual. Now the question arises, if you take those items, come to Australia and collect data, will you get the 5 dimensions or will you get more dimensions? We'll get back to this question when we do market research in service, but in week 5, I guess. So what happens is it might change because people are different in different parts of the world. People are culturally different. When you're culturally different, how you perceive quality in one part of the world is different than how you perceive quality in the different part of the world. So these were the key learnings from week 2, which forms the foundation for us to move into week 3. So today's topic is positioning of services, right? Now, positioning is something which is not new to you again. Those who have done principles of marketing management or consumer behavior 101 or consumers around the world, I'm sure you have heard of this term, positioning of services. But the question is, what is positioning, right? And why it is important, why it is relevant for an organization to spend time, effort, money to understand or to create a positioning for their offerings. So for example, say, what should I say? Let me take a product example and then we will take a service example. So if this is a highlighter of a company, some brand called Sharpie, right? Now this is one highlighter, and then I have another highlighter here which says Staples. So there are 2 highlighters who look different, but they are essentially, this is the color that are primarily used for highlighting. And these are the 2 colors, exactly does the same thing, but these are the 2 different brands. Now, when I go to Officeworks, which one do I choose? I don't really care which one. I primarily base my purchase on price. But not everybody is that. There are people who are loyal to Staples brand. There are people who are loyal to Sharpie's brand. So people who resonate with or who are loyal to Staples, they will buy that. Now the indication is the brand Staples features, so Staples features in the mind of the customers who pick up Staples much above the other brands. So there are 10, 20, 50 brands in the market who manufacture highlighters. Which one do I choose? Most often the research says that you choose the brand, one, according to your purchasing ability, two, the brand that comes on top of your mind awareness. So whichever comes first, you buy given your purchasing power, right? So that is products. Now think of service scenario, right? Suppose you want to go and on a holiday, right? So you want to book a airline ticket. Now, how do you book an airline ticket? How do you buy an airline ticket? That was the question we asked last week in week 2. How do you buy? How is a fundamental question in consumer behavior. So the question how we asked last week, how do we buy? So this how is a critical question. How do we buy airline tickets? I asked you to do a little exercise, and most of you have not done, and none of you have done on discussion forum, but that's all right. So if you get time, if you have done on your leisure at your home, that's good. Now, how do you buy an airline? Now there was a time when you did not have technology. So how did people used to buy airline tickets? So you go to a travel agent, the travel agent buys for you, or you go straight to the airline counter, buy from them. But today, how do we buy airline tickets? We go to some sort of a comparator website, comparisonmarket.com or iselect.com or whoever. There are so many other, tripadvisor.com. Go there, compare the airline tickets, and buy whichever is our requirement. If price is our primary criteria, then we get the cheapest option. If time and convenience is important, then accordingly. So based on the options that you choose, the comparator website gives you different choices. And out of that choice, you select one ticket. Then you need a hotel. How do you select hotel? So you go to hotels.com and check, or votif.com, or there are so many other websites. And you choose, depending on how much you are ready to spend per night, what amenities and facilities you want, and then you select what type of hotel. But if you have a fascination that I want to stay in a 3-star, a 4-star, a 5-star, or a 7-star hotel, which hotel comes up to your mind? Are you going to stay in your Four Seasons hotels? Are you going to stay in, say, a Best Western? Or are you going to stay in any other branded hotel, or any unbranded 1-star, 2-star will work for you? So it depends on the personal taste. It depends on the personal, the amount of money you want to spend on per night on a hotel stay. So there's a lot of factors. But for example, let us assume that money is no constraint, right? You are ready to spend, say, $500 a night, or $200 a night, or $300 a night. Then you are in a space, depending on which location you are going, to get a decent hotel. Then are you going for a branded option? The moment you go for a branded option, the idea of positioning kicks in, right? So for example, I've never lived in Four Seasons, but that is one hotel that I want to go. It's very expensive, beyond my means at the moment. But yes, that is one hotel that I would like to certainly spend at least a week with my family, right? Why? Because the positioning of Four Seasons, although I have never used it, but the way they have positioned themselves in the market is the ultimate hotel destination. If you want to live comfort and service and care and empathy, these are all positioning. So the question is, what is positioning, right? In the context of marketing, right? So if you want to understand positioning, I would suggest in your leisure time, and take this very seriously, read this book if you want to be in the marketing space. This book by Jack Trout and Al Ries, The Marketing Warfare. The book's name is The Marketing Warfare by Jack Trout and Al Ries. It is one of the best books ever written in the space of marketing to understand positioning services. It's not for academics. It's not by academics. It's by practitioners for practitioners. If you want to understand positioning, that is one book, and that is a practitioner targeted book. It's an easy read. You can finish the book in 2 days if you put your time to it, right? So positioning does play an important role to bring the brand on the top of the mind of awareness. We constantly bombard with advertisement. We constantly tell how we are better, how I am better as Emirates compared to, say, Qantas. How Qantas says, I am better than, say, Virgin, right? So there is a lot going on. Everybody is trying to say how he or she is better. So when I say he or she, is that the brands. So how one brand is better than the other. Everybody is saying, hey, I'm the best airline company, come and fly me. Every hotel is saying, hey, I'm the best hotel, I give you the best rail service, come and stay with me, right? So these are the questions. But who wins in this competition? The companies who understand positioning, who do positioning for their customers, in the mind of the customers well, they win, right? So the natural question is that what is positioning and how positioning is related to expectation and disconfirmation theory, right? So we'll come to that. So last week we did this idea called expectation disconfirmation. So when are you happy as a student, right? So if you apply expectation disconfirmation theory and positioning in this particular unit, so when will you be happy? So when you join this unit, you join this unit with a certain set of expectations, right? We are only in week 3, but whether your expectations are met or not, somewhere down the line, the unit, when you write your exam, you get good grades or not. If you get good grades, if you get good learning outcomes, if you're happy with the way we are teaching you, if you're happy with the content, the teaching, the tutorials and everything, if we supersede your expectation, then you are happy, delighted, super happy. So P is performance, E is expectations. If our performance is better than your expectation, you are super delighted. You're super happy as a student, right? But if we manage to do a so-so job, you came with a certain expectation and we just met your expectation, then you are happy, you are just satisfied, nothing to complain. Okay, the Sanjit and Aman has done a good enough job, no complaints. But the last thing which we want to avoid as a teaching unit, myself and Aman, is when students are dissatisfied, right? And that's why I always solicit feedback. If there is anything, write to us. We will try to address as soon as possible, right? So student dissatisfaction. You came with a set of expectations. The tutorials are not happening on time. The content is outdated. We are not explaining the concepts. We are not applying the concepts in tutorials. If these are the things, if the assessments are not properly on elements, if these are the things that are not in place, then you have an anxiety inside you, you are unhappy, right? So that's performance is less than expectation. So you can apply this idea of expectation disconversion theory in any service. I am applying this in the context of, say, higher education between you and me, Aman, and you, the students. Now let's come to position. Right at the beginning, when we started in week 1, I told you that I am a researcher who can teach. My USP is hardcore service research. If you look at my profile, my domain, my bread and butter is service research, right? So out of 60 plus papers or almost 70 papers we have published so far, 90% of my work is in the service domain. So I understand service. I apply service. I kind of not a proper consulting, but I do liaise with industry to understand industry problem and provide solution in my capacity as an academic, right? So I was trying to position myself as an expert in the space of service management, services marketing. That's a positioning of the individual as an academic. Now take this to a company, right? And how companies position themselves in the space. So when you go out tomorrow in the job market, you are going to do the same thing. There are 10 applicants, And out of that, say 10 applicants for one position or 100, 10 is a very less number. There are much more than for one placement. So there is a one job vacancy, there will be say 100, 200 job applicants. Every job applicant is trying to position him or her as better than the rest 150. So who wins? Whoever positions him or her to be the best fit with the job advertised. So positioning is key in communicating the message to your target audience that I am better than the rest. I am better than my competition. I am better than the competitors in the market. So that's the understanding of positioning. That's the importance of positioning, right? So before we come to positioning, so we have not yet answered the question, what is positioning, right? We'll come to that question. But I'm just giving you that, are teasing you or exciting you with this idea that positioning is important. Positioning is everything. If you don't position, you vanish from the mind of the customer. You just disappear. You don't exist. And if you don't exist in the mind of the customer, you don't exist anywhere else in this world. Because it's and this is the beauty of that book, The Marketing Warfare. And Jack Trout and Al Ries, they make a case that competition is not out there in the market. Competition is right in the black box of the consumer. So you don't fight it out in the market, you fight it in the black box of the consumer. That's where the competition is, and hence positioning is important. Right? I'm hoping that you're getting the idea. Any questions, please do not hesitate. Just shoot it to me. Right? Let's understand the journey of coffee. And as we have understood this coffee phenomena last week, we are trying to understand why Starbucks was not a success. One of you kindly wrote to me that the video on Starbucks was not having any sound. It was probably because of the earpiece that I was using, but it's the video that is not very hard to locate. Even in your PowerPoint, when you click it, the link is there, or you go to YouTube, you should be able to locate it as the first or the second option in your search. So I'm sorry for that, and we'll try and make sure that we have sound on the videos that we play henceforth. So staying with our coffee example, and this diagram is not created by me. I've taken this from a book, another book, which is so close to my heart as a service researcher. The title of the book is The Experience Economy, right? By Pine and Gilmore. That's another book, 1999, first time the book was published. And an updated version was published in 2011, and I hear that there is another updated version coming out. So I have both the versions. I have read it like twice or thrice so far. Still, I think that I have not gotten everything that the book has to offer, so I'm reading it for the fourth time, right? Another book, not an academic book, but it's loaded with practice. It's loaded with insights for a company. Any company can take that book and say, hey, I can improve my customer experience using the guidelines from this book. So this journey of coffee is one of the things that Pine and Gilmore mentions in their book. And you look at this coffee progression, and Australia being a coffee drinking nation, we know that on an average, an Australian person drinks 3 to 4 cups of coffees a day, right? That's quite a big consumption of coffee. Now, if you look at the progression, that what is the life of coffee, what journey coffee takes, because last week we spoke about customer's journey. So customers goes through primarily 3-stage journey. 1, pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase. That's the journey of a customer. Now we are trying to understand the journey of a coffee. Now, coffee, before it comes into your cup, it was sometime a commodity. It was, then the commodity was transformed into goods. So if you look at commodity, so first, the coffee's journey started as a commodity because coffee beans are traded as commodities in the market. These are not products, right? Then the commodity becomes a product, a good. So Maxwell House, it's not an Australian brand, it's an American brand because these authors are American, the book was published in America, but we can take any example, it doesn't matter. And then you have Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts, again, is an American brand, and they sell coffees, right? So look at the transformation, commodities to products or goods, and goods to services, and then service to experience. Now, for example, take the example of your business called cafe, right, in the ground floor. When you go, you take a cup of coffee, a regular coffee will cost you around $4.50. Now, do you think that the coffee takes $4.50? The price of the coffee, $4.50, is justifiable? Or is it too much or too less, or is just right, right? But if it was goods, the price is less. The moment it moves from being a goods to a service, somebody is making the coffee, somebody is serving the coffee with a smile. And then you have that space to sit and enjoy your coffee. So at every stage, this coffee, so from being commodity to being goods, to being services, to being experience, there is a transformation happening, right? Please mark the word. There is a transformation is happening, right? So for at every stage, so there are three stages here. One, so here we have 1, 2, and 3. So there are three stages here of the coffee's progression. At every stage, there is one transformation happening. What is that transformation? Why are they charging you $4.50, right? If you walk into a petrol station, you can get the same regular cup of coffee for $2. There are people selling coffees for $1. What is this called? That Subway. Subway is selling barista-made coffee for $3, right? So there is a price competition going on the same stuff, coffee. Why are people charging you $5? There are people who charge you $5 for a regular coffee or $5.20 for a regular coffee. Why? Right? Why they are charging that? And that is a key question you should ask. Because at every stage, there is a transformation. There is a change that is happening. Please remember, at every stage, there is a change that is happening. What is happening is value addition. At every stage, I'm adding value. I'm grinding the coffee, I'm roasting the coffee seeds, I'm grinding it to make coffee powder. Then the coffee powder makes its journey to a cafe. The cafe then makes it the way you want it. You want a latte, you want a cap, you want a long black, you want a short black, whatever you want, the barista makes it for you. Then you have the coffee sitting in the cafe with a nice music, nice ambience, right? And that ambience gives the experience. The barista serves the coffee. What would you like, sir, right? Would you like something else? And he or she serves you the coffee with a smile and then charging you. So there is a value addition happening at each and every stage. And this is what we need to understand, that there is a value addition happening at each and every stage of the journey of the coffee, right? And if you take a downward spiral, commoditization happens because we are going back to sleep. But we don't want commoditization. What we want is value addition, right? So that I can charge a $5, I can charge a $4.50, right? Because I'm providing you experience, and this is what is value. I'm providing you more than coffee. It's not coffee. Please remember, my dears, it's not coffee, it's coffee plus. It's something more than coffee that they are offering you. If it was coffee, it would have been $1, $2, $2.50. But it's not only coffee, it is coffee plus. Now it's up to you, the service manager. How do you design your plus? What plus do you want to give to the customers? That is up to you. There are some cafes here. When I buy coffee, I remember in Livingstone, I take my daughter for her dance lessons. And when she's dancing, taking her lesson for about an hour, what I go is I take about 2 minutes or 3 minutes drive and go to this Jamaica Blue Cafe. I somehow like their coffee. I go there, take a book or something, read newspaper. And one thing I noticed, they'd never give a coffee only. You order a coffee and they give you with a nice little cookie, right? Now that cookie makes my morning because I never can have only coffee. I always need something to munch with coffee, right? And here I'm not asking for it. They are charging me $4.50 for a regular coffee. And if I walk a little bit inside the mall, Livingstone there, I will get a regular coffee for $3.50. So I can save about $1. And I can buy like good number of cookies with that. If I'm buying from Coles or Woolies, another $1 or $2, and I can buy. But I prefer to sit in Jamaica Blue rather than walking inside the mall because of the ambience that Jamaica Blue has created. I don't get that ambience inside. So I'm paying that extra $1. One, I know they will give me a cookie. Two, I know I'm going to get an ambience where I can spend about an hour with my reading, right? So that is their way of creating that coffee plus. You figure out as a service company, what is your way of creating coffee plus? Coffee is just one example. It could be anything. You need to figure out what is that extra thing, that plus is that extra thing that you are going to do for the customer. That will make your experience memorable, right? I'm telling you Jamaica Blue story because consistently over a period of time, I am happy at that cafe, right? I hope you're getting the point. Then there's another stage of transformation. So it's experience. But in cafe, you don't get transformation. Your life doesn't get changed. But if you think of going to a massage parlor, right? If you think of going on a vacation, it's not only experience, it's transformation. Your life gets transformed. Your life gets changed. Your quality of life improves. So there is another stage. Not all services can provide you transformational experiences, right? But there are some experience services like hospitality, like leisure, like theme parks, like massage parlors, like gym, right? Now, at the moment, I am a regular customer of a gym. I've never been to gym so serious in my entire life. But at this stage of my life, I think it's time for me to take care of myself, my body, the one life that God has given me. I need to take care of that, right? So I am going through a transformation. It's not the experience. Experience is done. Now it's transformation of life. Now who is helping me? It's the gym. It's the people at the gym. It's the program that the gym has put me. Those are the things that is creating more than experience. It's transforming my life. And we call in the language of services marketing, transformative experiences, right? So it's not only experience, we call it as transformative experience, which is your last stage this one, right? So now let me ask you again this question. Let me incite you again. What is positioning, right? So please remember, you are what you charge for. Now there are people, if you go to this guy, who is that? Dome. Dome charges about $4.90 for a cup of coffee you are taking up, and they have only one size, I guess. If you're getting a takeaway, it is $4.90. I don't think $4.90 is the right price. That's me only. It's way above the regular market price. That's my personal perception. But why they are charging? Maybe because of the brand Dome, maybe because of the quality of the coffee, maybe because of the quality of baristas, maybe because of the service that they offer, right? So there could be n number of reasons why they are charging you $4, right? Is it making sense to you? So the whole idea that I'm trying to drive home is, how do you say you are different? How do you say you are unique? How do you say that you are different? How do you say that you are the best? How do you say that I make your life better? Your means the customer's life better. So these are some of the questions. How do you say who am I? These are some of the questions that we need to understand. And I give you a clear example of when you apply for a job. You are doing what a service provider does. You are doing what a product company does. All you are saying is, I'm the best, hire me. All you are saying that I'm unique, hire me. All you are saying that I'm different, I have the skill set, hire me. Right? This is what service providers do. They always say, hey, I'm the best, come and buy me. Hey, I can do better for you, come and buy me. Right? So this is the mantra of marketing, and I want you to remember this mantra of marketing. Please do not forget, even if you forget everything. And that's your mantra of marketing. Differentiate or die. Unless you say how you are different, you don't exist. You have an existential crisis if you do not differentiate your offering from the competitor's offering, because your customers only care for you if they understand that you are different and you add value to their life, or else they move to a different service provider. They move to a different company, right? So for example, say mobile service provider, okay? So when I come to this country, 2014, right? Two things I needed to like kickstart our life, or we needed rather. We needed a SIM card, a banking service, and a car. These are three things rather we needed. We sorted out the banking service, no problem. Went to Westpac, and the banking was set up. Car, someone told us, go to John Hughes, no dramas, get a car from there. We went to John Hughes, got a car. Number three, and the most critical, we need a SIM card. We went to get a SIM card, and we had a whole lot of drama. So I was staying on Hay Street at that time in a rented apartment, and walked into a Telstra showroom. There was a Telstra, I'm not sure whether they are still there or not, in Subiaco. So I walked into Telstra showroom. I said, I need a SIM card. I'm new to this country. Can you help me? And they said, yes, we can help you. We need a 100-point ID. I said, so what do I need to do? And they gave me a list of 100 points. I said, okay, I tick, and I was at 70. And I said, can you not help me? I have 70 or 80 points. I don't have 100. I was missing one or two documents for which I have to stay a little bit more in this country. So I did not have an address proof because I was living in a rented apartment given by the university at that time, which was temporary. Okay. So I do not have a home address. So they said, we need some sort of an address proof. So till my banking is set up, they send me a detail. I have a kind of a permanent accommodation. I cannot. They just not entertain me and my interest in getting a Telstra SIM card. What do? I continue with my British SIM card for another few days, then started looking in the market, who else is there? Then I found there are some providers. So we had Voda, we had Yes Optus, and there are so on and so forth. There are so many. We went around, and somewhere down the line, I think 5 minutes towards the city, I found a Yes Optus store. Went to Yes Optus, and they said, okay, what documents you have? I said, this is what I have. I have my passport, I have my visa, and I have my job offer letter. These are the three things I have. Can I hire? Can I get a SIM card? They said, let us see what we can do for you. Here I am communicating, right? As a company, they did not say that I cannot offer you. What did they say? They said, let us see what we can do for you. I'm not promoting any organization. I'm not demeaning any organization. I'm just sharing my experience with you, right? So all they did was they said, let us see what we can do for you. And they went inside, had a talk with their manager, came back, no problem. Give us a photocopy of all the documents that you have. And the moment you have an address proof, send it across to us. And within half an hour, trust me, our phone were set up, me and my wife. We stayed with Optus for at least 4 years after that. We recently switched to Voda, primarily based on price. Okay, so these are two experiences. Why did I move from Telstra to Yes Optus? Not because Telstra is bad, not because Yes Optus has the best communication. No, Telstra is has the better infrastructure in this country. But we moved from Telstra to Yes Optus because Yes Optus provided more value or value to me. Telstra was of no value to us because they did not give me a SIM card. So Yes Optus at least differentiated themselves on not saying no to the customer. This is critical. So Telstra lost a customer just because I did not met, and which is totally fine because that's their policy. The company cannot work against their policy. Maybe Yes Optus has a different policy. Who knows? So later on, when we moved to our so-called permanent apartment, we gave them the address and it's sorted, right? So there, the differentiation is happening. So it's still saying, I'm different, I can make you a customer in half an hour. Likewise, Amazon. Like the other day, I bought some gift for Raksha Bandhan, I shared with you. It's a festival of brothers and sisters. They promised me that they will deliver the gift on the day, which was 3rd of August. Trust me, they delivered one day before the day, right? So that is the differentiation of Amazon. They overperform. You expect Wednesday, they deliver on Tuesday. Are you happy? I'm super happy because my sister is happy, right? So you need to figure out a way of doing things differently as an organization. You need to figure out a way where you can say that, I am better than my competition. There are so many gift stores online, but I never, ever move outside Amazon because 9 out of 10 times or 10 out of 10 times, Amazon has lived up to its promise. So it's all about, if I promise as an organization, how do I fulfill that promise? And to fulfill that promise, you need to remember that mantra. What is that mantra? Please write it down, because if you write it, you will remember it. And the mantra is differentiate or die. DOD. Okay? That's a nice acronym. What do we say? DOD. It's not C. Let me correct it. I'm using a writing tablet. It's not writing so well, but it's better. At least we can interact. Okay? So DOD is differentiate or die. Please remember this as long as we'll come back to DOD once in a while in this evening. So that's the mantra of marketing. No one should forget this if you want to be in the space of marketing in your work life. Some of you might know this brand. Why it's going? Come on. Yeah. Some of you might know this brand, Masters Home Improvement. Now, when we came 2014, I think this brand was introduced in the Australian market 2015 or 2016, around that time. I may be wrong with the year, but around that time they were introduced. And when they were introduced, they were not actually doing too well. And after a while, it was shut down. It was closed. So Masters closed all its stores all over Australia. Now, what is Masters? Masters is much like a Bunnings. Masters is more like a home improvement store, very much similar to Bunnings. But Masters could not operate profitably in Australia. Now the question is, why? Why did Masters fail when Bunnings is doing fantastic? Even in this pandemic, Even in the close down, Bunnings had been doing pretty well. People were in lockdown and they were doing all sorts of gardening, home improvement stuff, and they were doing. But that's not the point. That's pandemic, exceptional case, once in a 100-year case. But Bunnings has been doing successful business for many decades, which Masters wanted to challenge, but Masters failed. Can you imagine why? Because you don't have another store like Bunnings, right, in Australia. The people. And when you put your thinking lens, when you put the lens of a marketing manager, there could be a number of reasons. They had financial issues, they could have like leadership issues. But when you look as a marketer at the problem that Masters was facing, Masters was facing an identity crisis. And this was a critical problem of Masters. Who am I? Masters was never, and this is purely coming from my experience as a service researcher and the research evidence. Masters failed to answer this question for the fellow Australians, that who am I as Masters, right? And it's not only who am I, how am I better than Bunnings? What is my value proposition, right? What is my value proposition? Again, I'll put a question mark. What is my value proposition, right? How am I different from Bunnings? Now, as Australians, I'm new to Australia. I'm not new anymore. I'm 6 years now. I'm an Australian citizen now. So I can typically call myself an Australian, not by descent, but by, say, there is another term, technical term, I'm forgetting. But anyways, so suppose my son, my daughter, they are growing up being regular visitors of Bunnings, right? For the last 3 to 4 years after we got our own house, right? So every now and then you visit Bunnings for all sorts of things that you need at house. And most Australians actually grow from their childhood into their adolescence to young adult to married people with kids and all, you grow with Bunnings. So Bunnings is introduced to you by your parents, not by the company maybe, right? So you know that Bunnings can solve all sorts of home improvement problems, all sorts of gardening issues, all sorts of things Bunnings can take care of. So Bunnings has an identity which is so strong that Masters could not challenge the identity of Bunnings. And unless you challenge the identity of the dominant player in the market, it's very hard for you to establish your own identity. So Masters was more of a challenger service brand. Bunnings was a market leader. And when you have a dominant player and when you have a new player which is coming in, the new player needs a strong identity, a strong value proposition, which I have written at the bottom of the slide. And the value proposition did not cut through in the mind of people. Did not see a value from moving from Bunnings to Masters. They thought, why? Why will I go to Masters when Bunnings is there for me, right? Masters did not solve customers' problem. That's the fundamental issue. So Masters did not solve customer problem because customer's problem is already solved by Bunnings. Why? Because customers don't see any value in going to Masters. So where is the problem? What problem Masters suffered with? Can you guess? What is the problem that Masters suffered? Masters suffered a positioning problem. Masters did not understand their own value proposition. Even if they understood it, they did not communicate it to the end user because every brand exists with a value proposition. The problem is most of them or some of them which are not successful, they fail to communicate to their end user. So there was a problem in the value proposition, there was a problem in the positioning. And please remember, positioning and value proposition, these two terms are squarely related, right? Positioning and value proposition are squarely related. Any company's value proposition provides you the positioning for that company for that. So why did Masters fail? Masters failed because they failed to communicate their value proposition. They failed to create an identity for themselves. They failed to answer the question, who am I? They failed to answer the question, why me? They failed to say why customers must switch to Masters from them. Does it make sense? Right. So that again establishes the argument that yes, we need positioning. We need positioning for a strong positioning for our brand. Right. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back and we start. Okay, so now we have been successful in establishing the need to understand positioning, the need to examine positioning, right? So unless you examine a failure, it's very hard for you to appreciate the importance of a concept or a construct in business design. Now let's get back to this beautiful logo. So we are not examining logo. We are not studying communication and branding and design, right? So who is it? It's nothing but Starbucks. Now last week we examined the failure of Starbucks in Australia. Okay. So let's go back to the home of Starbucks. The home of Starbucks is North America. So when it started off way back, I think 3.5 decades earlier, almost 3.5 decades earlier, they were a runaway success. They were so hugely successful for non-stop 2 decades, almost 2.5 decades. They were so very successful. So there must be something that they did that they were successful. And there are so many lessons for us to take from this. And I'm sure there is a case study for your tutorials on Starbucks. So this discussion might help you to respond to some of the discussion questions on that tutorial activity, right? So success of Starbucks. So on reading the case study is quite big, but I want you to read that case study because there's a lot for us to learn and apply in our own domains when we are applying positioning, when you are applying services in that applying that concepts in that service industry, right? If you look at Starbucks, that why Starbucks became Starbucks, not necessarily that Starbucks sells the best coffee. Because, for example, when I was living in Britain, we had some three options, right? At least I remember on top of the brand, the top of the mind, the three big brands that I remember: one Starbucks, two Costa, and three Cafe Di Nero. And I tried to visit all three, but I settled with Costa. Somehow I used to like Costa coffee better than Starbucks. And I have so many friends who like Cafe De Niro, and very less number of people in my circle liked Starbucks, right? But still, Starbucks has been successful not only in North America, but Western Europe. In Asian economy, they are operating pretty decently in India and in China. So why it was such a success? What did they do that they were such a success, right? So coffee was not new to America, but the coffee culture was growing, right? Who was the primary player in this in America at that time? And the major player at that time when Starbucks entered was Dunkin' Donuts, right? So their major value proposition of Dunkin' Donut was they were selling donuts and you can buy coffee, right? That was the thing. But what made or what separated Starbucks from Dunkin' Donuts was this, that Starbucks saw a place where Dunkin' Donuts was not operating. So you need to understand three things, and we come back to that. And in our discussion in the last 40, 50 minutes, we have addressed some of those. So we need to understand our customers. As we did in week 2, that's what is the understanding of the customer. And then we say, how am I better than my competition? You need to understand your competition, right? And the context. So what Starbucks did was, they did a fantastic job of understanding the competition in the North American market, right? And when they looked around, when they mapped their competition, their competitor mapping showed that Dunkin' Donut was the major challenge for them. Like Masters, when they introduced in Australia, the major challenge was Bunnings. But Masters failed because they could not position themselves to fight with Bunnings. Here the case is opposite in case of Starbucks. Again, I have a challenge. I have a successful big brand, Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm challenging. So Starbucks came in as a challenger brand, but emerged as a leader brand, right? Why? Because it changed its positioning. It moved away from the positioning of Dunkin' Donuts and created a space for itself. What was the proposition? What was the positioning of Starbucks? And as I said, value proposition and positioning are squarely related. How did they position themselves? They positioned themselves as a place where you get premium coffee, right? It's not coffee, it's coffee plus. Do you remember? I said, everybody is creating coffee. There are so many mom and pop shops in the city where you get coffee, but you don't visit every cafe every day. You visit one specific cafe because of convenience, closeness, and of course because of quality, right? So they were promising premium coffee. That's the plus for them. That's the added value proposition. They were providing a physical environment where you can go, you can just lounge and you can have coffee, spend time. They were providing you free Wi-Fi. Now, free Wi-Fi might be a thing of the past, right? Like, okay, at that time they were creating, okay, free Wi-Fi means that. But today, nobody cares if there is a free Wi-Fi or not. But you move 20 years back when internet wasn't used, or 25 years back when internet was just coming in the market, and then there is a cafe. Internet was very expensive. Today, compared to 20 years ago, internet is much cheaper, right? And someone is giving you a free Wi-Fi in that cafe, and you can work, you can read newspaper, you can spend time, quality time, right? And they were changing this whole philosophy of delivering coffee or delivering service in a cafe, right? So they had this whole idea of delivering service with a smile, right? So the baristas were trained to smile. The baristas were trained so that they can remember the regular customers' names and the type of coffee they prefer. So when you walk into in the cafe and say Tommy is serving barista, then Tom says, "Hey Matt, the usual cap, right? Extra hot." Say suppose it's me. Then you say, "Okay, extra, your usual extra hot cap." Would you feel good? I will feel good. I'm not sure about you. If someone remembers my type of coffee, I believe that he values me. Even if it is commercial friendship, it's a friendship, right? So what difference Starbucks made? What did Starbucks give you? So Starbucks gave you Wi-Fi, which is free. Starbucks created themselves as a third place. Now, this is the most important thing you should remember. They said it's the third place for you to go. Nobody is offering you a third place in the space of cafe. I'm offering you a third place. That's my positioning. So what is the positioning of Starbucks? The Starbucks positioning is, I am a third place. Third place means the first is your home, the second is your office, and if you are not at home, if you are not at office, then I have a third, first, second, and third. I have a third one. What is the third one? The third one is the cafe, where you can come and socialize. So what sort of value I am creating? I am creating social value, SOCIAL, social value, right? So I'm giving you premium coffee. Premium coffee is functional value, right? I'm giving you a service philosophy, which is emotional, right? So I'm creating three types of value if I'm Starbucks. One, I'm creating social value. Two, I'm creating functional value. I'm giving you high quality coffee. Three, I'm creating emotional value for you, right? And these are the three things that differentiates me, the Starbucks, from Dunkin' Donuts, right? So I'm a challenger brand in the North American market. I come up with lots of benefits. So all that I am promising to the American crowd is a set of benefits, right? All that I'm offering you is a set of benefits which Dunkin' Donuts is not offering you. And hence, you come to me, don't go to Dunkin' Donuts. Compare this with Masters. Masters failed to say this, that I offer you this, don't go to Bunnings. Contrary to that, Starbucks is successfully saying, why me? So they are answering. So Starbucks has been successful in answering this question, why me? Why you should have a cup of coffee at Starbucks, not Dunkin' Donuts, right? Those companies, those service firms, those service organizations, those service providers who are successful in answering this question, why me, is a force to reckon with in that market. Does it make sense to you? So that we are trying to drive home from the last hour or so the three C's when it comes to positioning, right? Three C's of positioning. That you need to do this 3C analysis, and we have emphasized on customer analysis. You need to understand. And we say Australia is a coffee drinking nation. They drink at least 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day. Australians have a mateship culture. Australians care for their communities. These are the characteristics I need to understand when I enter this market, right? As, say, a coffee seller or a cafe like Starbucks. I need to understand my customers' behavior, my purchase pattern, competitor analysis. Look at what Starbucks has done in North America. They have understood the competition. They know that they have only one major competitor at that point in time, right? That is Dunkin' Donuts. In case of Masters, they had one major competitor, that is Bunnings, but they could not cut into the mind of a customer. So do a competitor analysis. You need to do a kind of a strength and a weakness, you know that, to analyze. And you need to understand what is the positioning of that brand. So Dunkin' Donuts was never a premium brand. So there lies the opportunity for Starbucks. Starbucks is saying, okay, Dunkin' Donuts, so they have done a competition mapping. They've understood the positioning of Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not a premium coffee seller, so or coffee service provider. So what do? I am saying I'll give you premium coffee. That is the importance of competitor analysis. And finally, the company analysis. What sort of resources, what sort of funding model you have, what sort of capitals you have, what sort of fixed cost you have, things like that, the resources. And what is your positioning is important. And this is where Starbucks was so good at. They're positioning themselves. So their image was, I'm a premium coffee person and I provide a third place. If you look at your own backyard, or our own backyard here, we have major two grocery retailers, right? Coles and Woolworths. Now, what does Coles and Woolworths fight at? And if you look at the Coles and if you look at Woolworths, you can clearly identify. If you look at Coles, how do you identify that it's a Coles? Of course, it's written Coles, but you can identify from the color. Coles is primarily has kind of a reddish kind of a feel, right? When it comes to Woolies, it's more like green. So that's your Woolies. And this is more like a Coles, has a reddish flavor to it. So color is the first differentiator when it comes to brand differentiation, brand image. What is the next differentiation when it comes as a customer? How many of you go to Coles compared to Woolies? How many of you go to Woolies compared to Coles? Who prefers to be at Woolies rather than Coles? Now I try to match it up, but if you ask me, I'm always driven to go to Woolies. Why? Right? One reason, the first shop I shopped my grocery in Australia was Woolies. It was like 5 minutes walk from the place that I was living on Hay Street. And something resonated with me at the beginning when I came to this country. And that thing was, we are the fresh food people, right? Now, I so much like this jingle. It's all over radio, it's on their internet, it's on their YouTube channel, it's on their website. Wherever you go, they consistently maintain this thing. We are the fresh food people. So what is the other differentiator that Woolies is bringing to the market? Woolies is saying, anybody can sell vegetables. Anybody can sell meat, poultry, milk, but we sell fresh milk, we sell fresh grocery, we sell fresh vegetables and fruits, and whatever we do fresh, right? So how am I differentiating? So what is the point of differentiation that we are bringing in here, right? So what is the point of differentiation? POD, that's called point of differentiation. So what is the point of similarity? So when you are positioning, you need two things. One, point of differentiation, POD. Two, point of similarity, POS. What is the point of similarity between Coles and Woolies? The point of similarity is we are in the business of grocery retailing. That's point of similarity. What is the point of differentiation? Now, the point of differentiation which Woolies is trying to make is there is always a price war going on in the grocery retailing, right? But if I only do price war, I may not win. So what I've taken the freshness platform to compete. And that's my point of differentiation if I am Woolies, right? So Woolies' point of differentiation is freshness. And point of differentiation for Coles. What is the point of differentiation for Coles? The point of differentiation for Coles is price, at least from the ads and the communications that I see. That's POD for Coles. And the POS is point of similarity, the category in which you are operating. So which one is important for you if you are a company, if you are a brand, if you are a service organization? Point of similarity or point of differentiation, right? That's the question to you. Which one is important? Or one is important than the other? Now, when we run this, most often respondents say, okay, point of differentiation is the most critical element, right? Of course, it is critical, but please bear it in mind. unless you know your point of similarity, can you differentiate yourself? Unless you know what my competition is, can you say how you are different, right? So what is important first for a company is to know your point of similarity. That is number one. And number two is POT. That's number two. You need to know your POS first. Who are your competition? Unless you know your competition, you cannot differentiate yourself. Full stop. So when you are positioning, you need 3C analysis. You need to understand your customer. You need to understand your competition. And then finally, you need to do an analysis of you, the company. What are your strengths? What are your resources? What are your, how do people perceive you? What are your constraints? And all of that builds into how you differentiate yourself, right? And most of these things will come out when you do your analysis of Starbucks activity. So long we have discussed the 3Cs and the mantra of marketing. Now we come to what I call as the heart of marketing, right? H-E-A-R-T, heart. And if you don't have a heart, you don't live. You're dead, right? Like that, marketing will be dead if you take this heart out of marketing. So what does STP stand for? This is not new to you again. STP is segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So far, we have spent time on positioning. What is segmentation? I'm not going to spend much time on this because this must have been covered in Marketing 101 or Consumer Behavior 101. But just to touch base on, suppose you are selling life insurance, you are marketing life insurance. Unless you know, are you selling to a an older couple? Are you selling to a young? Or are you selling to an empty nester? Unless you know who are you talking to, it's very hard for you to design your products. So you need to understand your segments, right? So for example, in your credit cards, there are different types of cards available, right? You have platinum cards, you have gold cards, and you have, so why these cards are there? There are silver cards. Why these cards? These cards are particularly designed for a specific segment in the mind. So for example, people with platinum cards, they are usually people with higher income, right? And silver cards, these are the beginners, people who have just joined industry, they've just started working, and their income category is in the low to medium, right? So that is the type of segmentation. The segmentation variable is income based. Age can also be a segmentation variable. So when you sell insurance, you have some insurance for older couples or old people, you have insurance for young people, young family. So age is the differentiated, age is the segmentation criteria or variable. Next is targeting. So unless once you know your segment, then you design your targeting strategy, your messaging strategy, right? So if you want to interact with, say, the millennials, say you, if I want to talk to you, how many of you watch television? What percent, how much time do you spend in front of television, right? That's a no-brainer. Not many of you spend time on television. And if I rephrase the question, how many of you spend time on Instagram or any other social media platform, right? And the question resonates more with you because that is the medium that resonates with you. You are primarily consuming the social media. So if as a company, I want to target you, then I need to target you on those channels of communication, the social media platforms, right? Finally, what is positioning? So now we are answering the question. Now we are answering the question. What is positioning, right? So positioning is a process. Positioning is a phenomena. through which you create a unique place in the mind of the black box of the customer. No, it's not mind and the black box. So positioning is a process through which you create a unique place for your brands in the minds of the customers or in the black box of the customer, right? So where is the competition happening? That's the plain vanilla definition of positioning. What do you do so that your people remember you? It's not advertising. Advertising is just a medium. It's a channel to communicate to you, to talk to you, right? But positioning is, how do I establish my brand in your mind? That is positioning, right? Through benefits, through advertisement, through staying with you on your channels. There could be a number of ways, but primarily positioning comes from the benefits that you provide to your end user, the promise that you make to your end user. So that is positioning, right? So far, so these are some of the examples of positioning: adventures, Interpret, Contiki holidays, and freestyle Europe travel. This is another, like, I love to travel, so most of these examples are from the adventure, the travel world. But everybody has some sort of a positioning. If you look at this Interpret, there's a real life experiences. It's not experiences. So what he's saying is, everybody else is providing you experiences. I'm providing you real life. This is the way you should to your end user. This is the way you say, I am different from the others. Look at Contiki. Contiki says holidays for 18 to 35. So I've chosen a specific segment. I'm not a company for everybody. I'm a company which serves you if you are in this age category. So segment I've defined, then I'm using a channel to target you, and the position is I serve you, right? The market segmentation you can read on your own. There are several ways of segmenting. We have already told you age, income, demography. There could be a number of ways. Like when I was living in Britain, and I'm sure it might be in Australia also, there are some senior insurance. Insurance for people beyond 50 or insurance for people beyond 60. So they only specialize in that insurance, right? So that kind of so age becomes a criteria for segmentation. You can also segment your market based on your consumption. The Amazon Mom is a classic example of an offering from Amazon for new moms or new mothers, because new mothers or new parents have a number of questions, a number of needs, which Amazon or any other brand cannot fulfill, because Amazon does not exist for moms. So they created a different category which talks only to that specific segment, new moms. We've already given you this. I'm skipping some of these. Now, so long we have been discussing about benefits. Now, the bookish term for benefits is attributes. That's the way it is. Service attributes. That's the bookish term. Less number of attributes, less number of benefits. More number of attributes, more number of benefits. So attributes and benefits we use synonymously, right? So any typical service offering will have some important attributes. So for example, if you are buying a hotel stay, what are the important attributes of a hotel stay? You need a clean bed at the least, and you need a clean toilet. These are the two important requirements of a hotel stay. But you need more than that. You don't need a toilet, you need a clean toilet. That's a critical act, right? So these are just classification, but all that you should remember, I think when you are in practice, all that you care is what benefit or set of benefits you create for your customers. If you are in hotel, you know what to do. If you are in hospitality, you know what to do. If you are in taxi service, you know what to do. Can you do better? If you do better, people come to you. Full stop. Now, this is again a concept coming from Michael Porter. Michael Porter says that you need to focus. Focus on what is the question, right? So, for example, if you are Four Seasons, what is the focus of Four Seasons, right? What is the focus of Four Seasons hotels? Four Seasons hotels focus is customers. There are two focus, foci here, and employees. We'll come back to Four Seasons when we talk about managing employees. But what Four Seasons does the best is they treat their customers the best in the class, and they don't stop there. They treat their employees best in the class, right? So that's the whole idea. So how did they differentiate? So what is the focus of most of the brands, most of the hotels, most of the companies focus on the customers? And that's what we have been teaching, right? We have been trying to discuss in the last three weeks, including this one, is customer centricity. But who serves the customer? Employees. Who serves the customer? Who helps the customers? It's the employees. So what is your focus? Where your focus should be? Again, customer. But if you don't make your employees happy, they can never make your customers happy. So they have Four Seasons are critically chosen that we are not focusing only on customers. We are focusing on both customers and employees, right? So that is the meaning of focus. Where do I focus? So their differentiation is they put their employees. They ask their employees to live like a customer or to stay like a customer in one of the Four Seasons hotels, to experience what it is to become a customer of Four Seasons hotels, so that when they are in the role of employees, they know what the customers expect and hence fulfill the expectations. That is the focus. So do what you are good at. Some are good at customers, but these guys are saying, I don't want only customer focus. I want employee focus, right? This we are kind of, if you are reading this, we'll probably skip this one. There's no need to read this one, even from the exam perspective. So we will skip this. We'll come to positioning. Again, and this is the bookish definition. This I'm sure is taken from your book. That what is positioning? So position is a cold-hearted, no-nonsense statement of how you are perceived in the minds of your prospect. A positioning statement, by contrast, expresses how you wish to be perceived. It is the core message you want to deliver in every medium, right? So today, as a brand, for example, Four Seasons Hotels, for example, Qantas, for example, Singapore Airlines, for example, Emirates, you name a brand, and everybody has a positioning statement, right? But this is how the company wants the customers to remember them. This is how the company wants the customers to expect a level of service from them. So positioning is why they call it cold-hearted. Any idea? Why they call it cold-hearted? Cold-hearted because it is designed by the company. But the problem is when we design positioning statements, we design from the company's perspective. But those companies which are successful, they also take the customer's perspective. So there is a scientific way of conducting positioning, which in a moment I'll tell you, we don't have the scope in this unit to do that. But in marketing research, postgrad units, we do have this notion that how we can do, or not a notion, but a technique to actually create positioning using statistics, right? So this is coming from a book called The Selling the Invisible by Harry Wu, one of the best books again in this space of positioning. And we always say marketing or service is about marketing the invisible things. So the challenge is how to make the invisible visible. So this book mentions quite a lot in that space. And again, getting back to the marketing warfare book, it's about the battle for your mind. So competition is all about positioning. Positioning is all about the fight in the mind of the customer, right? And how do you grab a space in the mind of a customer? So it's all about mind share, right? Usually people talk about share of wallet. So what I'm suggesting is move from share of wallet to share of mind, right? So it's move from SOW, that is share of wallet, to SOM, that is share of mind. And eventually, some companies are moving towards SOH, that is share of heart, right? So share of wallet to share of mind. First, make that journey, right? Don't always look for the money if you are a brand. Of course, you need people to pay for your products, but people will only pay for your products till they see a value in your offering. The days they get a better offering, they switch. So along with share of wallet, emphasize on share of mind. We will not spend too much time today on share of heart. We'll get back to share of heart in the later half of the unit, right? There are different levels of positioning, corporate level. Some of these brands, Tesco, Asda, these are primarily the British brands. Again, retailers in that space in Britain. Tesco, the name itself differentiates it from Asda. Asda is nothing but the Walmart of Britain. It's the Walmart, but with a new name in Britain. That's the corporate level positioning. Then there are product and service level positioning, like Emirates and Southwest Airlines. So I use critically airlines in my name to indicate that I'm a airline service provider. And then we do a brand level positioning, that is Coles versus Woolworths, right? So most of the times, we either position at the corporate level, we all position at the product and service level, or we position at the brand. Some of the positioning statements of the corporate brands like Walmart: save money, live better. Now I'll give you a little history of Walmart. Now Walmart save money, live better probably is the latest one. I have not checked whether they have changed this one off late or not, but they moved from EDLP to this one. EDLP to, why my pen is not working properly? Okay, EDLP to save money, live better. EDLP is nothing but every day low price. So what is the value proposition? If I ask you, what is the value proposition of Walmart? The corporate value proposition, their value proposition was, if you come buy from me, I will offer you the lowest price 365 days a year. Nobody can beat me on that price, right? So I'm helping you in a way. So they moved that and brought the the customer focus. So now they're saying save money, live better. Who will live better? You, the customer, right? So the customer is always at the center of the positioning exercise. But do remember, the value proposition is still the same. Only the statement has changed with time. So EDLP stayed there for, I think, 2 to 3 decades. And now in the last decade or so, they moved from EDLP to save money, live better. But everywhere, the value proposition has not changed. The way you say that value proposition has changed. The way you communicate that value proposition has changed, right? Because if you change your value proposition, you are no more the same person. So you are going against that question, who am I? So if I ask that question to Walmart, who am I as Walmart? I am someone who makes your life better by making you save money. So EDLP and Save Money, Live Better are two sides of the same coin. I'm saying the same thing, but I'm saying the same thing with different set of words. So the value proposition has not changed. What has changed is the statement. Tesco again has been using this positioning statement for a long time. Every little helps. Now the question is why companies come up with this positioning statement. Why Woolies says we are the fresh food people, because these statements stays in the mind of the customer. These statements helps you to get the brand on the top of the mind of the awareness. These statements becomes becomes a part of the customer, right? It's more like a AID, a tool for the customer to remember the brand. It's more like a reinforcement for the customer. Asda, saving money every day. And you can see a relationship between what Asda is saying here with this one, because it's essentially the same brand, Walmart and Asda. Aldi, like the price. I think Aldi has moved to a different statement now. Emirates, for a long time, fluent in excellence, right? So you will see almost every top brand will have a positioning statement. And you don't have to have a top brand. Even like a tradesperson, someone who is in the trades business, like say a tap doctor, or for example, another plumber who is running a business in this country, they also come up with positions. They want to say that how, as a plumber, I'm different from other plumbers in the market. And they always mention something. Dental surgery is in the town. If you go, they say they are different. Like my wife goes to, is an employee at LifeCare Dental. She works there as a dental nurse. And they have accountability, adaptability, if I'm not wrong, and there is 1A. So they have a 3A positioning statement, right? So you need that because people remember you with those things. Go for it. So these are your own people here. Welcome to Australia's fresh food people. Spurshe. We grow it, we sell it, you save it. And your own university has Celebrating Success, the New Century campaign. All of it has some videos in YouTube. You can, at your own leisure time, go and find some videos. It's not too hard. Just Google Celebrating Success and search for Celebrating Success and you'll be able to come. The whole idea of sharing this is that you understand that regardless of the category of business or the type of service that you are in, whether you are in grocery retailing or higher education service, the importance of positioning is no less. It is equally important for all types of services that we can imagine, right? Come to the car rental service. Now, all of this we are discussing without Corona in our mind, okay? Corona has changed a lot of equations. So we are avoiding Corona at the moment. Possibly we can talk about towards the end of the semester. So this is a rivalry which is well researched and well discussed in academia as well as practice, like the cola wars, like the detergent war, like between Procter & Gamble and Unilever Limited, there is a detergent war always going on between the best detergent of P&G and the best detergent of Unilever. Like that, there is a cola war. Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola always fighting with each other on price and products and things. So if I have orange drink, I come up with another orange drink. If Pepsi comes up with a white drink, Coca-Cola comes up with a white drink. So they always are in a tussle with that, right? Likewise, Avis and Hertz always had this rivalry. So Hertz was the market leader. Avis was a challenger brand. So Hertz was a leader brand, right? So Hertz was the leader. And Avis was a I'm writing in the wrong place, red in red. So we call it as a challenger brand, right? Leader and challenger. But what happened was, Avis tried everything to beat Hertz, but it could never beat Hertz. So what Avis started in their communication, in their positioning was, they started saying that we are the proud number two, right? So it's very smart. One of the most, and there's a video here which you can see when you have time. They were so smart. They saw an opportunity here that we are number two, hence we try harder, right? So I'm acknowledging in the market, among my customers, I'm being authentic. So I'm highlighting an authentic image. Authenticity is the key here. I'm highlighting to my customers and saying that, I am number two, but that does not mean that I'm bad. I'm number two, and hence I'm trying hard to become number one. What sort of image you are creating in the mind of a customer? You are creating an authentic image in the mind of a customer. And image is everything. Image and positioning are squarely correlated, right? Strongly correlated. If my image is such that I'm an authentic brand, my positioning works. And this positioning of Avis is a classic folklore in business, in marketing, that I cannot become number one, hence I'm trying to be I'm trying to be the best in my category, in my number two position, but I'm trying hard. They're not saying I'm trying to beat her. They're saying I'm trying hard to be number one, right? So I'm highlighting an authentic brand image. And authenticity is perceived positively by customers. Who does not want to deal with an authentic brand, right? So it's a classic case of positioning to retain market share. So Avis was a number two market player for a long, long time before Enterprise Rent-A-Car dislodged it from the number two position. But it is still a dominant player in the American car rental market. Right? So what did we say? Let me write it here. Authentic brand image. All that we're saying is, I'm authentic, come. Hertz is better, but I'm an authentic brand. I'm trying hard to become number one. Come and use me, right? So when you're thinking of positioning, when you are having a debate with your line manager, when you are talking to your CEO, CMO, CFO about the need for brand positioning, there are three things that you must remember. One, what do customers want? What is their need? What you have to offer, the company itself, and what competition has to give. The three C's. So this is one C, this is the second C, and this is the third C. So essentially, you need to look at the three C's. Unless you have done this 3C analysis, you don't have a position, right? So you need to understand what customers want, what you have to offer, and what competition has to give. The ideal positioning is this, but sometimes this is a risky one. But if you hit this sweet spot, which is written risky, you become an Apple. But if you do an ideal positioning, you still remain a HP, a Sony, or something like that, right? So you need, at the intersection of these three things, three C's, what customers want, one C, what is my competition, second C, and who am I, the third C. These three intersection point gives you the position. 4 principles of positioning strategy, which you must remember. You must establish a position for a firm or product in the minds of the target customer. That goes without saying. Again, I am borrowing it from the book, The Marketing Warfare. This is not from your textbook. This is from the book, The Marketing Warfare. Position should provide one simple, consistent message. Do you recollect? And this is why you need those statements, right? Everyday low price. We are the fresh food people. Save money, live better. These are some of the things that are consistent and remains the same from decade to decade to decade, right? But do people do change it? We'll come to one of those changes in the later weeks. Position must set firm product apart from the competition. We have made enough number of times this position. That position must say, so freshness, it's clearly saying, it's not saying that Coles is not fresh. It is saying that I am fresh, okay? And that clearly puts me in a different space compared to Coles. So please remember, a company cannot be all things to all people. You must focus its efforts. And this is what we gave you an example. Although we tried to tell you that don't read that 2x2 matrix, from an exam perspective, there is no need. But if you want to read that, no problem. But at least to remember the focus idea. The focus is, what am I good at? I gave you Four Seasons hotels. Everybody is helping customers, that's fine. But what Four Seasons is doing is taking a step back and saying, I'm still helping customers, but first I'm helping my employees. I'm making my employees happy. So their focus is making employees happy so that employees can make customers happy. That's their focus, right? For another example, Southwest Airlines. What is their focus? Southwest Airlines is a North American low-cost carrier. Southwest Airlines' focus is low-cost air travel. They only do what is needed to bring the cost down. But in that process, what they have done is they have improved their turnaround time. Turnaround time is the time that you take from takeoff, from landing to next takeoff. They have a record turnaround time in the industry, and hence they save a lot of money on that, and they pass on the benefit to the customer. So what is the focus of Southwest Airlines? The focus of Southwest Airlines is cost reduction and passing on the benefit of that cost reduction to the customers. Walmart, what is their focus? Their focus is low price items. How do I do that? They squeeze the cost at the supplier end so that they can pass on the benefit to the demand side of the equation, the customers. Does it make sense to you? So that's the whole idea of focus. And all the following slides beyond that 2x2 matrix are trying to tell you around for stories around focus. If you want to read that, but we're not going to ask you questions on that matrix in the exam. But that's the whole idea. So please remember these 4 key elements of positioning. 1, you must establish a position in the mind of a customer. 2, you must have a positioning statement. That message is called positioning statement, right? Let me write. Oh, we had that in the slide. And position must be different from the competitors. Always remember Coles and Wool's rivalry. And finally, identify your thing. What is your mojo, right? And once you know your mojo, you can work on it. So how do you differentiate? You can differentiate based on product features, product performance, conformance, reliability, and the list goes on. So this is one way of differentiating. So if somebody is offering you 10 different features, you say, I'll give you one more. I'll give you an example of this. There are so many taxi rental companies in Singapore, but now is the Grab. Grab is the main one, which is acquired the smaller players, right? But still, there are other taxi players who are there, but that's the main player. But how is it differentiating itself from the competition? Is giving me a bottle of water, a product differentiation, right? So everybody is doing all. They have an app like others. There's a lot of similarities, but they're taking service. And their drivers are so good, empathetic, and things like that. That's a product differentiation. But when it comes to image differentiation, you talk of symbols. And this is what I'll give you the example of Coles and Woolies, right? How am I changing? How am I differentiating? So we use the idea of color. So Woolies is primarily green and Coles is primarily red. That's the symbol. And then they have a logo as well. So the atmosphere, I always like Woolies for some reason, right? Then they have all those mini collective items and stuff. These are all to build an image kind of a differentiation for the brand, right? So you differentiate primarily on 2 levels. 1, product level. 2, image. And then there is a personnel differentiation, whether people, and this is more relevant in a high contact services. For example, insurance, for example, automobiles, for example, hospitality, where the people part of the equation is important, whether people are courteous, where people have the competence, whether people develop credibility in the mind of a customer. So your people becomes your point of differentiation. For example, Four Seasons Hotels, right? And if you see, these are all some of these service quality items: responsiveness, reliability, right? So these are all nothing but quality items, but at the people level. So people can differentiate. Singapore Airlines is another example of a brand, of a service brand, which has differentiated itself on its people. And there is a nice case study somewhere down the line, I think we'll be discussing that, is the Singapore girl. So that girl is not essentially the girl, but the girl represents the air hostesses and the cabin crew who are so fabulous when it comes to service delivery, in-flight service delivery, right? So people forms the differentiation. Then service differentiation. I've given you examples of this. In case of Amazon, they promise 5 days, they deliver in 3 days. So that's delivery. That is their differentiation. And if you are say, my first job was a sales and a service engineer, where I was just out of uni, much before doing my PhD. So I was just out of uni, out of my master's, and I was doing a sales and service engineer. So my job was B2B sales. And we were selling scientific instruments to physics, chemistry, engineering labs. That was my job. And I was managing one zone in the western part of India. And that was a fantastic experience. But our expertise was installation and customer training. These were the two things that we did so well, because we were one of the first to bring that kind of advanced imaging device, advanced chemistry equipment used in chemistry labs. So most of the professors never saw, they knew about those instruments, but nobody was selling that in India. And we were the first to import it and sell it in India. So what we were doing is, we were offering them first, we were marketing. So I was their sales agent, I was marketing, I was selling, and then I was installing. And at the same time, I was also training the customer, training those professors how to use this instrument. This is classic differentiation when it comes to services, right? Consulting service, repair. So think of automobile repair. I've moved from one service, automobile repair, to other, finally stuck to automobile. Somehow, so far, they have not disappointed me. They're good value for money, and they have courteous people. They have people who know their competence level. So questions for effective positioning strategy. There are some questions. I'll leave you with some questions. And what does our firm currently stand for? So if you want to do effective positioning, ask yourself, what do you stand for as an organization? Who are those customers? Do you know the characteristics of the customer whom you are serving? What is the value proposition, the present value proposition in the market segment? How does each of our service products differ from competition? How well do customers in chosen target segment perceive our service products? What changes must we make? Again, it boils down to 3 C's, right? If you look at the previous one, what do we stand for? Company analysis. What type of customers we are doing? Customer analysis. What is our value proposition? Company analysis. How does each of our service products differ from competitors? Competitor analysis. How well do customers in chosen target segment perceive our service product? Customer analysis. What changes must we make? Company analysis or competitor analysis, right? So again, these 3 questions links back to the 3C analysis. So 3C analysis is the core of your positioning exercise. So some concepts, take the target audience, not new to you, just a refresher for you. Frame of reference is the point of similarity. So when I'm saying frame of reference, I used a different term previously, which is called POS, or point of similarity. So please remember some of these reasons to believe. This reason is your USP or unique selling proposition, right? Why do I buy from you? Because your USP strikes on me. Everyday low price. Save money, live better. We are the fresh food people. These are USPs. Just an example of a USP, Amazon.com, right? Now, this is what I was suggesting. I'm not going in detail here because we need some statistics, but at least I wanted you to introduce to you a tool, a technique to do positioning. And positioning is usually done by a statistical technique called MDS or multi-dimensional scaling. It's available through SPSS and we can design. So if you are doing, say, for hotels, as in this case, based on some characteristics, so expensive price and service. So we can ask a set of questions to the customers on different brands like Shangri-La, Sheraton, and then feed that data into the software called multidimensional scaling. That will generate this graph, right? And this graph tells me that Shangri-La is more like an expensive brand. Italia is more like a less expensive brand and is featuring more towards a high service. So if you see Italia, which is here, it is featuring toward in this quadrant, right? So this quadrant is high service, less price. This quadrant is high price, moderate service. This quadrant is high price, high service. Okay, so high price, high service is going to be the premium brands, right? So this clearly gives you an idea, and this will also give you that is there a gap in the market. This will also give you, and this is there a gap in the market? GAP. Is there a gap in the market? And just to give you a small story, we did a consulting job when I was a PhD student. My supervisor was doing this consulting job for a news channel. So the news channel, it was a Hindi news channel in the regional language, in the national language of India, and they wanted to launch this. So there were so many like news channels, like so many hotels in the market. There were so many news channels in the market. So they came to us and they said, we want to launch this brand in the market. Is there a way you can help us to identify what could be our positioning strategy? And we did this sort of an exercise and we identified a gap. So I don't have that space to tell you that what is that method because we are not in the marketing research kind of a setup. But we, along with my supervisor, I did that exercise. We collected data from a wide range of customers. Then we conducted multidimensional scaling. We generated such maps and we gave them a positioning statement or a kind of some competing positioning statements. We gave them, they chose one of that. And we are so happy to see that they are still maintaining that positioning statement for the last 10 years. I think we did it in 2009, 2008 or 2009. We are in 2020. So almost 10 years they're using the same, and they are one of the top 2 news channels in the country now. So we are not taking any credit for it. But why I'm sharing this is, if there is a new product or a new service, and that is a critical scenario, every now and then new products and new services are launched in the market. But every time you launch a new product and new service, you need to decide what is going to be your USP. And you want to do an USP, you just cannot do it qualitatively. You need to fall back on quantitative methodologies and techniques. And most often, multidimensional scaling. There is another one which is called MPS or multi-preferential scaling. These are the 2 primary techniques that people use to generate maps. And these are very helpful to understand where you are placed. If you look at, say, Sheraton, through this map, if you place it to the executive of Sheraton, Sheraton clearly knows its position compared to its competition. So its primary competitor is Italia. However, its distant competitor is Grand and Regency. And its closest competitor is Italia, And in the next quadrant, if you look, Atlantic. So who is your competition? Clearly, you can see who are your close competitors and who are your further competitors. So they are not my competitor. If you look at Sheraton, Grand and Regency, I'm not competing with Grand and Regency. I'm competing with more like Italia or Shangri-La kind of a brand. Okay, so that is an idea of positioning. And you can do it for any type of brand. So let us summarize and let us see that what we have understood today. What are the key learning for us? So what the key learning for us today is to understand the idea of positioning. 1, 2, what are the elements of a customer-driven services marketing strategy? If you want to do a positioning, a proper positioning exercise, you need to do a 3C analysis, you need to do a segmentation targeting and positioning. And you need a focus, right? And strategies, what are the different strategies that you can adopt to position your brand? We gave you a little bit of idea about positioning maps, but please remember positioning. So if I ask you what is positioning, positioning is a technique to create a space in the mind of a customer. What is the mantra of marketing? Mantra of marketing is differentiator. What is the heart of marketing? Segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Why did you need positioning? If you don't position, you don't have an USP. If you don't have an USP, you don't exist in the mind of the customer. We gave you a successful example of Starbucks. We gave you a failure, Masters. Why they failed? Because one was bad at positioning, that is Masters. Why Starbucks so successful? Because it was so successful in creating a positive image in the mind of the customer, right? I hope you enjoyed this session. I look forward to interacting with you. Any questions, as always, shoot it to me, and we will be happy to respond to your questions. Thank you very much. I look forward to see you next week. Take care. Stay safe.